was staring at the little blue calendar app on my phone when my boyfriend said he was canceling our mountain weekend for someone I had never heard of, and I stayed quiet while something in me cracked because why would a year of planning mean less than a stranger who suddenly mattered? My name is Magnolia. I am 31 years old, and I work as a dental hygienist in a busy clinic where people tell you the truth with their mouths open and their eyes squeezed shut. For almost a year, that trip was the one bright, steady thing I kept reaching for. It started as a joke back when the year was still new and my life felt like it had room for softness. Rhodes had taken me to a coffee shop with a fireplace that smelled like cinnamon and burnt sugar. It was the kind of place where couples leaned into each other like they had all the time in the world. I remember watching a woman in a knit hat wipe whipped cream off her partner's lip, and I said, half teasing, half pleading, that I wanted that kind of slow. A weekend in the mountains, just us, no group chats, no last-minute plans, no work emergencies, no my buddy is in town. Just 2 days where we could pretend the world was small enough to hold in our hands. Rhodes looked at me like he was taking a picture in his mind. Then he nodded and said, okay, let's make it real. Rhodes was 33, charming in a way that made strangers smile back at him without thinking. He worked in marketing and had that restless energy that made him good at his job and exhausting in relationships. I knew that about him. I had learned to live around it. I told myself it was normal, that people had different speeds, that love was learning how to meet in the middle. So I did what I always do when I want something to survive Rhodes's life. I planned it carefully. I booked a cabin with big windows and a ridiculous stone fireplace. I reserved a little restaurant that did fresh bread and slow-cooked meat and claimed it was romantic enough to make people cry. I requested time off months in advance the responsible way. I set reminders. I picked a hiking trail that looked easy, enough for someone who claimed they hated hiking but still wanted the pictures. And every time Rhodes got distracted by the next shiny thing, I would bring it back to us with small, gentle sentences. Remember, that weekend is ours. You still want the cabin, right? I already paid the deposit, so we are going. He always said yes. He always kissed my forehead like I was adorable for caring so much. The thing is, I did not just want the trip. I needed it. The past few months had been rough in a quiet way, like water damage behind a wall. Rhodes and I had been arguing about tiny things that did not feel tiny. He would say he was coming over, then show up 2 hours late with some story about running into someone. He would scroll his phone while I talked. He would promise a date night, then invite friends without asking. And when I tried to tell him I felt pushed to the edge of his life, he would laugh softly and say I was overthinking. He said that word a lot, overthinking. But the weekend was supposed to be proof that I mattered enough to be chosen on purpose. The week before we were supposed to leave, I started packing early, like a nervous kid before summer camp. I laid sweaters on my bed. I folded socks. I tucked my good hiking boots beside the door. I even bought new toothpaste because the cabin had a hot tub and I imagined us being the kind of couple who brushed their teeth together and laughed. The night everything changed. Rhodes came over with a takeout bag and a distracted smile. He kissed my cheek, not my mouth, then set his phone on my kitchen counter face up, like he wanted to see every notification the moment it arrived. He ate quickly. He barely looked at me. His knee bounced under the table. I asked, what's going on? He sighed like I was asking him to do homework. So, there's a thing. I waited. He took his phone, scrolled, then set it down again. You know Margot's friend group? Margot was one of his closest friends, the kind of woman who always had plans and always had an opinion. Rhodes continued, they're doing a welcome back thing this weekend. My hand stopped moving. I was still holding my fork. Welcome back for who? He hesitated. It was a very small hesitation, but it was real. An old friend, someone from back in the day. He's only in town for the weekend. I tried to keep my voice even. We are leaving this weekend. I know, he said quickly. I know, but this is kind of a big deal. I stared at him. Big enough to cancel our trip? He leaned back and rubbed his eyes. Babe, it's just a weekend. We can do the mountains anytime. The phrase hit me like a slap. Just a weekend, anytime. I felt heat crawl up my neck. Rhodes, we have had this planned for almost a year. He shrugged. Okay, but stuff comes up. Stuff, I repeated, and my voice sounded strange, like it belonged to someone else. He reached for my hand and I pulled it back before he could touch me. Who is this old friend? Rhodes exhaled. His name is Alaric. I blinked. I had never heard that name from Rhodes's mouth. Not once, not in stories, not in jokes, not in any nostalgic drunk conversation, nothing. How old of a friend? I asked. High school, Rhodes said too fast. He used to run with the group, then moved away. He's back for literally 1 weekend. I stared at him harder because my brain was trying to connect dots that did not exist. If he's so important, why have I never heard of him? Rhodes's jaw tightened because I don't talk about every person I've ever known. I nodded slowly. I could feel my heart beating in my throat. Okay, then why does he matter more than me right now? His eyes flashed with irritation like I was making this difficult on purpose. That's not what I'm saying. That is exactly what you're saying. I replied, still calm, still trying, because I could not afford to get emotional if I wanted him to hear me. I booked the cabin. I paid. I took off work. You told me yes for months. And now, days before we leave, you're telling me you are canceling because someone I've never heard of is in town. Rhodes looked away. You're being dramatic. There it was. That word again, disguised as a sigh. I leaned forward. Look at me. Are you seriously choosing this over our trip? He paused. Then he said it like he was annoyed he had to. Yes, because it's 1 weekend and you're acting like I'm abandoning you. My stomach turned cold. I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not even raise my voice. I just nodded like I accepted it because I wanted him to believe I was letting it go. Do what you want, I said softly. He looked relieved immediately, like the problem had solved itself. That relief was the first micro twist. The first moment I realized something deeper was happening. Because if you love someone, you do not feel relieved when you hurt them. You feel guilty. You feel worried. You try to fix it. Rhodes kissed my forehead and said, see? Thank you. You get it. Then he went back to scrolling his phone. When he left that night, I stood in my kitchen and listened to my own breathing. My face felt numb like I had just left the dentist's chair myself. I walked to the counter where he had left his soda cup, and I threw it in the trash with a kind of careful anger. The kind that does not make noise. I sat on my couch and stared at the packed bag by my door. I thought about how I had imagined that weekend. I thought about the way I had been counting down. I thought about the little moment I had pictured when he would finally slow down and see me fully. And I thought about the name he said, Alaric. Something about it itched at me, not the name itself. The way Rhodes said it, like it was a fact he had rehearsed. So I did something I am not proud of, but I am also not ashamed of anymore. I opened my laptop and searched through social media. I found Margot's profile easily. She posted everything: brunch, drinks, parties, smiling, faces tagged in bright places. I scrolled, and then I saw it. Not a photo, not a tag, a comment thread from months ago, buried under a group picture at a bar. Margot had written, can't wait till you're back, we miss you. And under it, a reply from someone named Alaric. His profile picture showed a man with a charming smile, and the kind of eyes that looked like they were always laughing at something you did not not know about. I clicked his profile, and my heart sank when I saw the first thing at the top. A photo from a few years ago. Rhodes was in it. Rhodes' arm was around Alaric's shoulder like they were brothers. In the comments, Rhodes had written, "My guy, always." My fingers went cold on the keyboard. I scrolled further and saw something else. A second micro twist that made my stomach twist even tighter. A photo of Alaric with his arm around a woman. The woman was Margot. Not in a friendly way. Not in a casual way. In a way that looked like a claim. And suddenly, that welcome back weekend felt less like a reunion and more like a performance. I did not confront Rhodes that night. I did not call Margot. I did not do anything loud. I did not need answers yet. I needed proof. So the next morning, when Rhodes texted me, "Breakfast with Margot in the group. Be back later," I simply replied, "Okay, have fun." Then I opened my notes app and wrote down the time, the exact wording, the casual confidence. After that, I called my best friend Holland. Holland answered on the second ring. "Hey, are you excited? Mountains are almost here." My throat tightened. Rhodes is canceling. Silence. Then Holland said very carefully, "Why?" "He says an old friend is in town. Someone named Alaric." Holland cursed under her breath. "You never mentioned an Alaric because I've never heard of him," I said. "And he said we can do the trip anytime." Holland exhaled. "What do you want to do?" I looked at my packed bag. I looked at the cabin confirmation on my phone. I looked at the reservation email. I looked at the calendar I had been staring at when my heart cracked. "I'm still going," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. Holland did not hesitate. "Okay, I'm coming." "What?" "I'm coming," she repeated. "You shouldn't be alone. And if he thinks he can treat you like a placeholder, he can watch you live your life anyway." I swallowed hard. "Are you sure?" "Pack snacks," she said. "I'll pack rage." By the time Rhodes got back from breakfast, my plan was already moving like a quiet train on tracks. He walked into my apartment humming, cheeks pink from cold air, phone in his hand. "So," he said brightly, "about this weekend. You're okay, right?" I forced a small smile. "Yeah." He relaxed again. That same relief. "Good. I knew you'd understand." I nodded. "Sure." Rhodes went to my kitchen for water, and his phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at it and smiled to himself without realizing I was watching. That smile did something sharp to my chest. I did not ask who it was. I did not accuse. I did not need to. I just watched him move through my space like I was already forgiven. That afternoon, I loaded my car while Rhodes was in the shower, humming like everything was fine. I put my bag in the trunk. Then I put Holland's bag beside it when she arrived, eyes bright with anger and loyalty. Before I got in the driver's seat, I took one last look at my apartment door, at the life I had been building with Rhodes, and I felt something shift, not heartbreak, decision. As I pulled out, my phone buzzed. A message from Rhodes. "Hey, quick thing. Can you forward me the cabin address anyway? Margot wants to see pics," and I told her where we were going. I read that line 3 times. Then Holland said very carefully, "Why?" "He says an old friend is in town. Someone named Alaric." Holland cursed under her breath. "You never mentioned an Alaric because I've never heard of him," I said. "And he said we can do the trip anytime." Holland exhaled. "What do you want to do?" I looked at my packed bag. I looked at the cabin confirmation on my phone. I looked at the reservation email. I looked at the calendar I had been staring at when my heart cracked. "I'm still going," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. Holland did not hesitate. "Okay, I'm coming." "What?" "I'm coming," she repeated. "You shouldn't be alone. And if he thinks he can treat you like a placeholder, he can watch you live your life anyway." I swallowed hard. "Are you sure?" "Pack snacks," she said. "I'll pack rage." By the time Rhodes got back from breakfast, my plan was already moving like a quiet train on tracks. He walked into my apartment humming, cheeks pink from cold air, phone in his hand. "So," he said brightly, "about this weekend. You're okay, right?" I forced a small smile. "Yeah." He relaxed again. That same relief. "Good. I knew you'd understand." I nodded. "Sure." Rhodes went to my kitchen for water, and his phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at it and smiled to himself without realizing I was watching. That smile did something sharp to my chest. I did not ask who it was. I did not accuse. I did not need to. I just watched him move through my space like I was already forgiven. That afternoon, I loaded my car while Rhodes was in the shower, humming like everything was fine. I put my bag in the trunk. Then I put Holland's bag beside it when she arrived, eyes bright with anger and loyalty. Before I got in the driver's seat, I took one last look at my apartment door, at the life I had been building with Rhodes, and I felt something shift, not heartbreak, decision. As I pulled out, my phone buzzed. A message from Rhodes. "Hey, quick thing. Can you forward me the cabin address anyway? Margot wants to see pics," and I told her where we were going. I read that line 3 times. He wanted the address, not because he cared, because he wanted the story. He wanted to borrow the romance I built and hand it to someone else as a cute detail. I did not answer right away. I just took a screenshot, then another, then saved it in a folder I labeled with the date in words. Holland glanced at me. "What is it?" I swallowed. "He wants the cabin address?" Holland's jaw tightened. "For what?" I stared at the road, and I finally said the question that had been burning since the blue calendar app, since Alaric's smile, since Rhodes's relief. "What kind of welcome back weekend needs my boyfriend to cancel a year-long trip? And why does it feel like I'm the only one who's been kept in the dark?" Quick real-life pause. When I'm editing these late at night, I get tired, and your comments are what keep me going. Hit like, subscribe, and tell me your city, state, or country. Alright, now let me take you back, because this is the part that still makes my hands shake when I remember it. We were halfway up the highway, the mountains starting to rise in the distance like they were waiting for me, when Holland's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, then at me. "It's Margot," she said quietly. My stomach dropped. I looked at my phone. No missed calls yet. Just silence. Holland answered on speaker. "Hey." Margot's voice was bright. Too bright. "Hi, quick question. Where's Rhodes? He said he was meeting us again tonight, but he's not answering." Holland's eyes met mine. I kept my face blank. I stayed quiet. Holland said, "That's weird. He told us he had plans." Margot laughed lightly like it was nothing. "Yeah, he always says that. Listen, do you know if Magnolia is mad? Because Rhodes is acting all tense. He said she was being dramatic about some trip thing." My chest tightened. Trip thing? I reached over and muted the speaker with shaking fingers, then whispered to Holland, "Ask her who Alaric is. Ask her why Rhodes is tense." Holland nodded and unmuted. "Oh," Holland said smoothly. "Alaric, right? The old friend." There was the smallest pause. A pause you could drive a car through. Then Margot said softer, "Who told you that?" Holland's voice stayed calm. "Rhodes did." "Why? Is there something we should know?" Margot's laugh came out thin. "No, nothing. It's just complicated." My heart thumped hard against my ribs. Holland leaned closer to the phone. "Complicated how?" Margot hesitated again, and then her voice dropped like she was stepping into a different room. "Because Alaric isn't just an old friend," Margot said, "and Rhodes shouldn't have dragged Magnolia into this." The air in the car felt suddenly too thin to breathe. I stared at Holland like she had just said my name in a room full of strangers. My hands tightened on the steering wheel until my knuckles hurt, and I realized I had been clenching my jaw so hard my teeth ached. looked. Holland did not look away from the road. She kept her voice steady, like she was holding a glass of water she refused to spill. What do you mean, dragged her into this? She asked. On the other end, Margot let out a slow exhale. I could hear background noise, a restaurant, clinking dishes, someone laughing too loudly. It made me furious that life was continuing so normally around them while my chest was breaking open in the passenger seat of my own life. I should not even be talking about this, Margot said. But Rhodes is being stupid, and Magnolia seems like a nice girl. This is not fair to her. I swallowed. Nice girl. Like I was a stranger in my own relationship. Holland's voice stayed gentle. Then tell me, what is happening? Margot hesitated again. Then the words finally came out, careful and practiced, like she had been rehearsing them to herself for weeks. Alaric and Rhodes used to be close, she said. Like really close. And it did not end clean. My stomach dropped. I felt a cold rush through my arms, like my body was trying to numb itself for what was coming. Holland asked, close how? There was a pause. Then Margot said, they dated. Back in high school. For a while, I let out a sound that was not quite a laugh and not quite a sob. It came from deep in my throat, a broken little breath. I stayed quiet, but inside, 1,000 tiny memories started rearranging themselves. The nights Rhodes said he hated talking about high school. The way he never introduced me to anyone from back then. The way he would get oddly tense when someone mentioned reunions. The way he kept his phone face up like it was oxygen. Holland glanced at me quickly, her eyes asking if I was okay. I shook my head once, just barely. Holland said into the phone, okay, so why is he coming back such a big deal? Margot's voice softened. Because he is not just visiting. He is testing the water. What does that mean? Holland asked. Margot sighed. He wants to see if Rhodes still cares. And Rhodes, being Rhodes, wants to prove something. He wants to look unbothered. He wants to look chosen. He always did. I felt heat rise into my face. So the mountains were not just a weekend. They were a thing Rhodes could drop to chase a feeling. A mirror. A performance, Holland said. And you are telling me Rhodes canceled his girlfriend's birthday trip for this? Margot went quiet. That silence was the loudest part. Then she said almost offensively, I did not tell him to cancel. I told him to be honest. I told him he should not come if it was going to cause problems. But he showed up at breakfast acting like it was no big deal. Acting like Magnolia would get over it. My stomach turned. Acting like Holland's voice sharpened slightly. So you knew he was canceling. Margot snapped. I did not think he would actually do it. Rhodes talks big. He makes promises and then he changes plans. That is what he does. She said it like it was a harmless personality trait. Like it was just Rhodes being Rhodes. Like my year of planning was just a cute detail. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. My nails pressed into my skin. Holland asked, is Rhodes trying to get back with Alaric? Margot's laugh came out bitter. Rhodes does not even know what he is trying to do. He just knows Alaric is back and he feels something. He feels competitive. He feels unfinished. He wants attention. He wants to win. Win. The word echoed in my head and I realized something that made my skin crawl. If Rhodes saw relationships as something you win, then I was not his partner. I was his trophy. I forced myself to stay quiet. I did not want Holland to say my name. I did not want Margot to know I was listening. I wanted her comfortable. I wanted her to keep talking. Holland asked, what did you mean when you said Rhodes should not have dragged Magnolia into this? Margot's voice dropped lower, like she was trying to be kind now, like she was wrapping a sharp object in tissue paper. Because Rhodes never really closed the door with Alaric, she said. He told everyone it was just a phase. Then he got defensive anytime someone brought him up. And now Alaric is back, and suddenly Rhodes is making choices that do not make sense. It is like he is trying to rewrite history. My chest tightened. Rewrite history? Like erasing me without even bothering to use an eraser. Holland asked, do you know where Rhodes is right now? Margot said, he said he was meeting us tonight for drinks, but he is not answering. And honestly, I am not trying to get pulled into a couple's fight. I just wanted to know if Magnolia was going to show up mad and make a scene. Make a scene. My vision blurred for a second. Not from tears, but from rage. Holland's voice stayed calm. She is not going to make a scene. She is not like that. Margot sighed with relief. Okay, good, because I do not want this to be messy. I almost laughed. It already was messy. It was just my mess, and they were keeping their hands clean. Holland said, thanks for calling. Margot replied quickly, just tell Rhodes to get his head straight. He's not a teenager anymore. Then she hung up. The line went dead, and the car filled with the sound of the tires on the road and my heartbeat pounding in my ears. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Holland said softly, are you okay? I stared at the highway ahead, the mountains drawing closer, their silhouettes sharp against the pale sky. No, I said. My voice came out thin. I am not okay. Holland reached across and squeezed my hand once, then let go. She did not try to fix it with words. She just stayed with me in the silence. My phone buzzed again in the cup holder. Rhodes. I did not pick it up. I watched it buzz until it stopped, and something inside me felt almost calm. Not peace. Not acceptance. Just a hard, clear focus. Holland said, do you want to turn around? I swallowed. No. Do you want to talk to him? She asked. I shook my head. Not yet. I could feel the urge to explode, to call him and demand answers, to say how could you, to cry, to beg, to fight for the version of us I had been clinging to. But I remembered his relief when I said, do what you want. I remembered his smile at his phone. I remembered his message asking for the cabin, a dress like my life was content for him to share. If I accused him now, he would deny it. He would call me dramatic. He would twist it into me being insecure. He would make me feel crazy for noticing what was real. So I decided something. I would not argue. I would collect the truth like receipts in a folder, and then I would hand it to him with my hands steady. We drove the rest of the way in a quiet that felt heavy but also strangely powerful. Every mile forward felt like me choosing myself again. When we arrived, the cabin looked exactly like the photos. Tall windows, wooden porch, a view of trees and distant peaks. It should have felt romantic. Instead, it felt like a stage I had built for someone who never planned to show up. Holland whistled softly. This is gorgeous. I nodded, forcing my lungs to fill. It is. We carried our bags inside. The cabin smelled like pine and fresh linen. There was a basket of firewood by the fireplace, a small bottle of wine on the counter with a note that said welcome. Stared at that note longer than I should have, and shame burned in my throat. I had wanted this so badly. I had wanted it to mean something. Holland opened the curtains wide and let sunlight flood the living room. We are going to have a good weekend, she said, firm, even if it is different than you imagined. I nodded, but my mind was already moving. I pulled out my laptop at the dining table and opened every message thread I had with Rhodes. I searched keywords: cabin, weekend, birthday, mountains, anything that would show our plan was real and agreed to. There were so many yes messages, so many promises. I took screenshots, saved them, and wrote down the dates and words beside them like I was building a case. Holland watched me for a moment, then asked gently, "What are you doing?" I swallowed. "I am making sure he cannot rewrite this later." Holland's eyes softened. "Good." I kept going. Then I remembered something else. Margot's comment thread. Rhodes's photo with Alaric. The old words. My guy. Always. I opened social media again and scrolled, slower this time, looking for patterns, looking for anything I missed. I found a photo from months ago. A group at a concert. Rhodes was there, smiling, and in the corner of the shot, half cut off, was a man whose profile looked familiar. I zoomed in until the pixels broke apart. It was Alaric. My stomach clenched. He had not just been gone. He had been hovering around their lives without me ever knowing. I kept scrolling and found another tiny detail. A comment from Rhodes on one of Margot's posts. It was a joke, but the timing hit me like a punch. It was posted on the same day. Rhodes told me he was too busy to come to my friend's birthday dinner. Too busy, but not too busy to be out with them. I sat back in the chair, my hands shaking. Holland came over with 2 mugs of hot chocolate she somehow found in the cabin pantry. She set one beside me. I looked up at her. "I think this has been going on longer than this weekend." Holland's face tightened. "What do you mean?" I turned my laptop toward her and showed her the screenshot, the concert photo, the date. I watched Holland's expression shift from confusion to anger. "Are you kidding me?" she whispered. I shook my head. "He told me he was working late that night." Holland stared at the screen, then at me. "So he has been lying." I swallowed hard. Yes, that was the second micro twist, the one that made the story change shape. It was not just a sudden reunion. It was a pattern, a slow leak that finally became a flood. My phone buzzed again. Rhodes again. This time he left a voicemail. I did not listen to it. I was not ready to hear his voice twist my reality. Instead, I did something quieter. I opened our shared streaming account, the one I paid for because Rhodes said he forgot to. I changed the password. Then I opened our shared grocery app and removed his card. Then I opened the folder of cabin details and reservations, the ones he casually wanted for Margot to see. I did not delete anything. I just removed his access. Holland watched me, eyebrows raised. "That is cold." I looked at her. "It is clean." Holland nodded slowly. "Okay, what is the plan?" I took a deep breath. My heart was still hurting, but now it was hurting with purpose. "I am going to let him talk," I said. "I am going to let him keep thinking I am emotional and impulsive. And then I am going to ask him one question. He cannot answer without exposing himself." Holland leaned closer. "What question?" I stared at the cabin window, at the mountains I had wanted to share with Rhodes, and I felt a strange kind of strength settle into my bones. "I am going to ask him," I said softly, "why he needed the cabin address if he was not planning to come." Holland's mouth tightened into a sharp smile. "That is good." The rest of the day moved like a dream. We went for a short walk on the trail near the cabin. The air was cold enough to sting. The trees were quiet. The world felt indifferent, which somehow made me feel less alone. I watched my breath fog in front of me and tried to picture what Rhodes was doing. Was he with Margot? With Alaric? Was he laughing? Was he telling them I was dramatic? That thought made my stomach churn, but I did not let it pull me into panic. I just kept walking. Back at the cabin, I finally listened to Rhodes's voicemail. Not because I missed him, but because I wanted to hear his tone. His voice came through, tense and irritated. "Magnolia, what the hell? This is messed up. You just left? You are being cruel. You are trying to punish me. Call me back. This is childish." Childish. I stared at my phone, feeling a hollow laugh rise in my chest. Then, a few minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text. Rhodes wrote, "Where are you staying? Send me the address. I need to talk to you in person." My blood ran cold. Holland looked up from the couch. "What is it?" I showed her the text. Holland's eyes widened. "He is trying to come there." My throat tightened. Or someone else's, because suddenly, Margot's earlier fear made sense. She was not worried I would make a scene at their drinks. She was worried I might show up where Rhodes was pretending he wanted to be. And Rhodes wanting the address again, after already asking once, felt like a man trying to control the narrative before it slipped out of his hands. I did not reply right away. Instead, I opened my phone settings and checked, something I never thought I would need to check. Location sharing? My stomach dropped again when I saw it. Rhodes and I had shared our locations months ago, after a harmless conversation about safety. It had seemed normal, sweet even, but now it meant he could see exactly where I was. I turned it off with one tap. Holland exhaled slowly like she had been holding her breath. Good. I stared at Rhodes's message, then typed a reply with calm fingers. "I am safe. I will talk when I get home." Then I put my phone face down. A few minutes passed. Then another text came through, and this one made my whole body go still. Rhodes wrote, "Do not do this. Alaric is not what you think. Margot told me you were digging. Stop." My heart slammed against my ribs. I had not told Rhodes anything. I had not confronted anyone. So how did he know I was digging? I looked at Holland slowly, and Holland looked back at me. The same question in both our eyes. Someone was watching me. Someone had already started spinning the story, and now Rhodes was scared enough to admit a name he claimed was meaningless. I did not answer Rhodes after that message. Not because I did not have something to say. I had too much to say. But I knew if I responded while my emotions were loud, he would hide behind them. He would call me reactive. He would shift the conversation away from what mattered. So I stayed quiet. That silence was not weakness. It was space. Space for him to keep talking, to keep explaining, to keep revealing himself without realizing it. The mountains outside the cabin windows were turning gold with late afternoon light. Holland was sitting across from me pretending to read, but I could tell she was watching me breathe. "Are you sure you want to go back on Monday?" she asked carefully. "Yes," I said. "Not to fix things," she clarified. "No," I replied. "To finish them." Holland nodded once. No argument, no pity, just understanding. That night we cooked dinner together in the small cabin kitchen. It was simple food. Pasta, bread, nothing like the romantic meal I had reserved months earlier, but it felt honest. No pretending, no performance, just two people existing without trying to impress anyone. And somewhere between stirring the sauce and setting the table, I realized something that felt like another quiet twist. I was not thinking about whether Rhodes missed me. I was thinking about how peaceful it felt without him. On Sunday morning, I woke up early and stepped outside alone. The air was cold and sharp. The trees were still. No notifications, no explanations, just quiet. I stood there for a long time, letting that quiet settle into me. Because for the first time in months, I was not waiting for Rhodes to choose me. I had already chosen myself. When we drove back Monday afternoon, my phone had dozens of messages, calls, voicemails, long paragraphs that shifted tone every few lines. Angry, defensive, apologetic, confused, accusing me of overreacting, then begging me to talk, then blaming Margot, then saying he just needed closure, then insisting none of this meant anything. It read like someone trying on different versions of the truth to see which one fit. I did not answer any of them. When I finally pulled into my apartment parking lot, my hands were steady. My heart was not racing anymore. It felt like I had already done the hardest part somewhere between those mountains. Rhodes was sitting on the steps outside my building. He stood up as soon as he saw my car, like he had been waiting for hours. His face looked tired, unsure, almost boyish in a way I used to find endearing. Now it just looked unfamiliar. "Magnolia," he said as I got out. "Can we talk?" I nodded. "Yes." We went inside. He started speaking immediately, words rushing out. I did not think it would turn into this. I just wanted to see him. I did not want to hurt you. Margot made it sound worse than it is. You are blowing this up. I held up my hand. He stopped. I walked to the kitchen counter, set my bag down, and turned to face him. "I only need to ask you one thing," I said. He looked confused. "Okay." I met his eyes, calm, level, no anger left in my voice. "Why did you need the cabin address if you were not planning to come?" Rhodes blinked just once, but that was enough. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked away, then back at me, then toward the window, like the answer might be written somewhere outside. I just wanted to see it," he said weakly. I nodded. "You already saw the pictures." He swallowed. "I thought maybe I would come up Sunday," he added quickly. "Surprise you." I slid my phone across the counter toward him. On the screen were the screenshots, the messages, the timeline, the concert photo, the dates written out, his own words promising the trip, his own messages asking for the address before he even knew where I was staying, his voicemail calling me cruel while he was trying to figure out if he could still insert himself into the weekend. I did not accuse him. I did not raise my voice. I just let him look. Rhodes stared at the screen for a long time. The room felt very quiet. Finally, he said, "You went through all of this?" "Yes," I replied. His shoulders slumped. "So what? You were building a case against me?" "No," I said. "I was building clarity for myself." That landed harder than anger ever could. He sat down slowly at the table, rubbing his face. "It was not supposed to be like this." I believed him, but that did not matter anymore. "Rhodes," I said gently, "you did not choose between a trip and a friend. You chose between honesty and comfort, and you picked comfort. Over and over." He did not argue, because there was nothing left to defend. The final twist came quietly, almost like an afterthought. "I already signed the paperwork this morning," I added. He looked up. "What paperwork?" "The lease transfer," I said. "Your name is no longer attached to anything here." His eyes widened slightly. "You already—" "Yes." I had done it before we even left the mountains. One phone call, one conversation, one decision made without waiting for him to change. Rhodes looked around the apartment like it no longer belonged to him, because it did not. "I did not expose you," I said. "I did not tell anyone what happened. I just removed myself. That was the revenge. Not loud, not dramatic, just absence." He nodded slowly, realizing there was no argument left to win. "I guess," he said quietly, "I did not think you would actually walk away." I picked up my bag and headed toward the bedroom to unpack. "I did not either," I said, "until you made it easy." And that was it. No yelling, no slammed doors, no grand goodbye, just the end of something that had already been ending for a long time. That night, after he left with a small box of things, I sat on my couch in the same spot where I had stared at my packed bag days earlier. But this time I felt light, not happy, not sad, free. Because sometimes closure does not come from a conversation. Sometimes it comes from realizing you were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person. Now, stepping out of the story for a moment, when something like this happens, it is not about one decision. It is about patterns. People show you their priorities in small ways long before the big moment arrives. We ignore those moments because we want the version of them we believed in to be real. But truth is quiet. It repeats, it waits. And eventually you either face it or it forces you to. I learned that silence can be stronger than confrontation, that you do not have to destroy someone to walk away. You just stop participating in what hurts you. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop explaining why you deserve consistency. And once you do that, everything changes. Because the moment you stop chasing clarity from someone else, you start living with it inside yourself.